Hello everybody, this is Matador from freetrainingvideos.com. Good to be back with you on this April 22nd of 2009. Looks like our high base is still holding up here beautifully, as evidenced by this intraday picture of the S&P 500 ETF, the spiders. So here's a nice move, a little gap down this morning on some bad earnings announcements, but throughout the course of the day it looks like we got some better than expected news from other companies. So even though Morgan Stanley loses $578 million in first quarter, which was a little bit larger loss than anybody was expecting, there were other earnings that helped out a lot. So kind of neat to see the market digest that so positively. And there's a lot of other news to read here in Yahoo Finance or other places as well, but that's where I'm looking right now. And if you see that gap completely fill, right, just a little bit of a stall, which isn't unexpected right here. In fact, you could just draw a little trend line through this. That becomes an area of resistance. Just got blasted through. Right up to the next area of resistance. If you back this up far enough, you can start seeing that we have, of course, a huge gap to fill back in here. So let me go out to a different time frame so we can see that more clearly. There he is. So this whole thing from the previous few days comes into effect still. So watch what happens when I put in 24-hour data. You'll be able to see some more fine-tuned action. I scrunch this up a bit. And so when things are doing pretty well in the market, right, and things are sort of stepping down, still this gap, even pre- and post-market data, this 86.50 mark, 86.17, which is where we are now, these swing highs in here, and that's where we're stalling right now. So it's really nice to be able to look at pre- and post-market data for this added fine-tune ability. All right, so now I can take this off, just grab regular session data, and so that's where these numbers were generated. That's where these lines of resistance were put in from the pre- and post-market data. All right, anyway, all that aside, if we go back to a daily chart, you can still see nicely that we are holding up, even after this gap down, pretty dramatic sell-off, but albeit on lower trend Q volume like we talked about yesterday and the day before. Part of the reason we're holding up here is because not a lot of people who are selling stocks were selling with lots of volume. That's a great eye-catching indicator for the broad market breadth. And so let's take a look today at what the trend and trend Q are doing. Very nice. The trend itself is rising a little bit here. Still below 1, which is good on the bullish side of things. Trend Q is looking great at 0.5 area, and it has been below that for a good part of the day, so very nice. The VIX, again, very good bleed out even after the morning gap down, and this gap up in the VIX, good sell-off, completely fills the gap here, almost exactly the opposite of the broad markets, and just be wary of seeing any volatility come back into the market that might damage our move upward here. There are some stocks of note that are running up into resistance now. I mentioned Apple yesterday, for instance. There's a nice ascending triangle pattern here, but look what it's running up into on a weekly chart. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bars straight up in a row on a weekly chart, trying to fill this gap into the declining 50 MA, round number of 125. So even though intraday this looks good, you can trade it on an intraday basis. Oh, excuse me one second. So anyway, what I was saying was you can buy something like this on an intraday basis, but again, you have to know what you're about to trade into, even if it's a longer time frame. And sometimes it doesn't end up being relevant for the day, but most often I find that it does, and that's just my opinion on that. But it works out an awful lot of time. So very good. Nice to take a little run around the markets with you. Again, post comments. I'll be tearing apart questions and comments that you have every night now. And by the way, stay tuned for D7's video. You'll be getting that after the close today. And have a great rest of the day.